Hey, we are two Star Wars nerds, and today we're going to do something just a little bit different. Typically we do reviews, we do reactions, we talk about lore, things like that, even breakdowns. But what we really want to do is we want to just show you a glimpse of how wonderful we really think Star Wars is. Something that's really interesting when you and I watch the movies and TV shows, read the books, there are these moments where we read something or we hear something, and for a moment it actually pulls us out of Star Wars, and it almost like turns the mirror on ourselves. We see ourselves a little differently, or we reflect deeply on what's going on within us. And we wanted to start this series called Motivational Mondays. Obviously not unique to us, but what's incredible about Star Wars is George Lucas had a high respect and honor for philosophy, for religion, for mythology, and he integrated that into Star Wars really, really well. And so what we're doing right now is we're going through the prequels, and we're going through the Phantom Menace in particular. And so what we actually did is we took a quote from the Phantom Menace, and we just want to talk about this for a few minutes. So let's read this, and I have an opening thought, and then we're just going to talk and hopefully motivate you and hopefully have a new way of thinking, something that may shift you and actually hopefully enact some change in your life this week. So the quote is from Qui-Gon Jinn talking to Anakin, and he says, "Your focus determines your reality." Your focus determines your reality. And this makes me think of this. I like driving. I can drive for hours on end and I'm fine, but I notice this one thing happens. Whether it's a police officer who pulled someone over, or there's something weird going on the side of the street, or whatever, even like a duck or something, my attention will get pulled to that. And so I'm like looking, like I'm driving forward, but I'm looking off to the side, or maybe I'm reaching for something that fell, something like that. But I've noticed wherever I'm looking, I actually start driving the car that direction. There's times where I pull up and I'm like, oh, I started veering. Thankfully, nobody was there. And this quote makes me think of that. Like, we can do it in our driving, but how many times in our life have we wound up somewhere where we're like, man, how did I get here? How did I veer into this lane? And I think this quote describes that perfectly. Your focus determines your reality.
Yeah, it's a powerful quote, and it's so true. I've seen that in my life. What it makes me think of is, I don't know the terminology, but like when horses race, they have those things.
Those blinders.
Yeah, those blinders, because of that very thing. They get distracted and they'll veer in other directions or go off course, so that those blinders help keep their attention and their focus on where they're going and the finish line. And I think just like those horses, sometimes we can end up in the same way of getting distracted. We almost have to find blinders, find those things that will help us focus on what we're supposed to be focusing on, instead of getting distracted and day-to-day things or in minor details or things like that. We have to find what we're supposed to be doing and just follow that thing and pursue that thing without other things getting in the way, because it's easy to, at least personally for me, it's easy to say yes to everything. It's easy to want to help all that I can, but I have to step back and say my focus then becomes divided, and I can't put all my attention and focus into multiple things and do them well. So it's finding that thing that I'm supposed to be doing and focus on that, because that's what's going to become my reality. If I'm focusing on a bunch of little things, I'm going to have a bunch of mediocre things in my life, when that's not fun for anyone.
Yeah, and even when you're thinking about that singular focus of what you want to do in life, there is, this old Chinese proverb, the man who chases many foxes catches none. And it's this idea of, if you're trying to do everything, you're not going to get anything done.
Right.
And, I was thinking about this even a little differently. I love your approach of thinking about, man, what is that thing you were created to do?
Mm-hmm.
What is that thing you feel called to do? That thing inside of you where you're like, if this was not in my life, I feel like I would be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you feel miserable because it's not in your life right now.
Right.
But I love that approach to this quote because there's this idea of there's no limitations on your life. This isn't a cheesy motivational speech.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, you can set the limitations on your life in your mind. And I know that because here's just a silly example of how that works. I love hot, sunny days.
Yes, you do.
I love them. And there's times where we'd be going out to the car, I'd step outside, it's already 80 degrees, the sun's shining, and what would I say?
Man, it's a beautiful day.
Every single day.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And I love it. My wife, on the other hand, and it's understandable, she actually likes the gray,
Yes.
rainy, cold days. She does
Mm-hmm.
like the kind of brisk spring days.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I would say, man, it's such a beautiful day, she'd be like, oh, I hate this kind of weather.
Yeah.
But understand, in such a simplistic way, my focus was determining how I viewed my day.
Mm-hmm.
Your focus would determine how you viewed your day.
Right.
Granted, you have really bad allergies, so that plays into it.
Yeah.
But this is what I find. In life, it is so easy to just focus on everything that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find yourself in this mental space where you're just torn up. You feel tormented. And you're just like, man, everything sucks. I hate my life.
Mm-hmm.
I want to quit. My bosses are this. My family is this. My job is this. The world is... And you just spiral.
Right.
And I've actually studied this out with... Just for our job, we do a lot of research, and we look into things. We work with teenagers, and so we've actually had to research quite a bit of stuff. Neuroplasticity is this idea that your brain is plastic. Like, your neurons are plastic. They can be adapted and they can be changed. And so basically what can happen, like you were talking about with your focus, you can literally create ruts.
Yep.
In your neural processing patterns. And maybe that sounds really intense, but basically, I mean, it sounds funny. This is all from Qui-Gon Jinn, right?
Here we are.
Basically what Qui-Gon Jinn is saying, it's like, literally, your focus biologically can determine your reality.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is our brains actually don't have the capability of separating distinctions between a repeated thought and an actual event.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found this out personally when I've had a bad experience at a job, maybe, and I just fixate on this over and over and over. And then the next job I go to, it's like that same thing is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, this is just like the other job.
Right.
But then what I don't realize is I'm actually the problem. The problem is actually within my mind, the way I am perceiving things.
Mm-hmm.
And that, yes, there are bad situations, but I can literally change my focus. I can change the way I think about things, and it actually changes my perception.
Mm-hmm.
And it removes the lens, it removes the blinder, and it helps me see clearly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective, and I think it's easy to get caught up in the negative because, especially in the age we live in, what's going on in our world, everything always seems so negative. But the thing is, there's always beautiful things, like just looking at, creation and flowers and plants. You can always find beauty. And yes, I don't like the sun, but I still think it's beautiful. It's just, you have to be intentional, I think, about focusing on the right things, because to me at least, it's easy to focus on the wrong things. So I have to be intentional to focus on what's good, what's beautiful, those things, and that's what helps me. It's a hard thing to do.
You're so right. It really is. And just maybe a closing thought we'll leave you all with this is we understand if we open the fridge and we have fruits and vegetables in our fridge, and we understand they don't just populate there. Mm-hmm. They don't just populate at the store. They came from a farmer in some capacity, whether it's a machine or by hand, planting those seeds, watering them, taking care of them, and eventually there was fruit that could be picked. And there's this idea of our lives being like that. Whatever we're putting into our lives, whatever seeds we're planting into our lives, eventually that becomes our reality. And it's just like this. If you plant a bunch of apple seeds and you expect an orange tree to pop up, you're kidding yourself.
Right.
You have no one to be mad at but yourself. Here's the thing though. Sometimes, let's be honest, culture, the world, Hollywood, they sell us a bag of seeds and they say, this is good.
Right.
This is what you should think about. This should be your focus. And then when the fruit starts to come, we say, man, why is this so negative? Why does this make me so anxious? Why does this make me so depressed, so angry? And we need to ask for a refund. We need to say, no, like I'm getting rid of this. I'm actually removing this from my life. And you have to find those things, like you were talking about, those beautiful things, those lovely things, those pure things, those seeds that you can put in that actually affect the way you see the world. They affect your reality and they affect your entire life for the positive.
Right.
And so with this is our Motivational Mondays. Again, we read this amazing quote from Qui-Gon Jinn: your focus determines your reality. Man, if you liked this video and you want more of this series, leave a like, leave a comment, let us know that you would like more. It would mean a lot because we want to do more than just Star Wars. We want to hopefully impact your life for the positive. So with that, we are two Star Wars nerds, and may the Force be with you always.